Recording. Welcome everybody to the Contemporary Issues class here in April, on a sunny April day. Nice to have you here, and we're going to talk today about volunteer opportunities, and our speaker will be Barrett Walker of Project Cure, which a lot of St. Andrew folks we have found already volunteer there. So we are glad to have her with us, and Joe Sutton is going to tell us a little bit about what he does there also. Before we do that, we're going to do usual announcements. Please mute yourself in the lower left corner of your screen if you're not speaking, so we can keep the background noise down. And we are recording this for future playback. And please be kind to each other and our speakers so we can have a cordial discussion today. Hope everybody is doing good. Any announcements on things? I just shared my wife Vicki had her new artificial hip last week, and she's doing great. She was up about 4 hours later, walking in the hospital. I can't believe the things they do these days. Pretty soon they'll have drive-through hip replacements. That's my prediction. But let's see, tomorrow also is a good event at St. Andrew. Rev Mark is doing an anti-racism discussion at 6:30 on Zoom. So you may want to tune into that. And we've got lots of other good classes coming up that are listed on the website. The Big Serve opportunity, we're going to talk about that in the second half hour of our time this morning. That's coming up May 8th. Lots of volunteer. Vicki says she just registered us. Good, I'll find out what I'm doing. And anybody else have anything to share? Anybody been traveling or have any special joys or concerns? Speak up.
Well, Karen and I just got back from New York, first trip since COVID. So both of us vaccinated. We felt a little bit better traveling, and we were amazed by how crowded the airport was. Actually, on the way out, it was just like pre-COVID levels. But what we did was Easter Sunday. Kyle is in Jersey City, and Tyler's in Sleepy Hollow. And so we all went to Tyler bought a new house, a big one right on the Rockefeller Reservoir.
Rockefeller State
Park area. His backyard is Rockefeller State Park. So we all went there for Easter Sunday, and it was just a gift from God. It was a really delightful weekend and week with the kids. So it was really special.
Good. Was the plane full? Airplane?
On the way there, on the way there it was pretty full. We flew out, but on the way back from New York, I don't know. We flew back yesterday. It wasn't too bad. In Newark, it wasn't. We flew out of Newark. It wasn't too bad. But everybody wearing masks. No one was trying to,
buck the system.
And everybody was pretty. They were above their nose and everything. So I mean, they were adamant about it. So yeah, I felt pretty safe on the flight. I think people haven't flown, I think
You can tell that the airlines have stepped up their cleaning procedures with some sort of an electrostatic light that they go through with, and then Mr. Cleaning. They've got a contract with Clorox. You could actually smell the cleanliness when you walked in.
Good. It's good to hear.
Yeah, and they handed out alcohol swabs in a little package to every single passenger as they were coming on. So I told Bob, I said they should have been doing this years ago. So and hopefully this is one of the changes that will stick. So
they keep cleaning the planes like this.
Maybe it'll help us keep from getting the flu and everything else too.
Yes.
That's
exactly.
Good.
But thanks for asking. But yeah, no, it was a great trip.
You bet. Okay, everybody. Well, Barrett Walker is with Project Cure of Denver, and I'm going to let Barrett tell a little bit about herself and what Project Cure does with sending medical supplies around the world. So, and how we can get involved too. So thank you for being here, Barrett. You're muted still. unmute yourself, the lower left corner probably.
There we go.
There's-
Sorry, I was clicking on my photo or on my camera here.
Oh,
Good
it's
morning, and thank you for this opportunity. I wanted to thank Joe, first of all, because he is part of Project Cure's Denver Ambassador Board that kind of helps us amplify our message in the community. And he's apparently done a good job already here since, well, some of you I'm sure found Project Cure other ways, but it was great to hear that several of you already volunteer with us. Typically when I do this, if I did a show of hands, I might have a few in the medical profession and they would know about Project Cure, and pretty much most others wouldn't. So we're working to change that. We've been around for a while and we're not trying to be the best kept secret in Colorado. So I'm going to share my screen here and get my presentation up. So delivering health and hope to the world. I am quite privileged to be a part of this mission. This is what we do. I'm going to get into a little bit about how we do it, but Project Cure. So our why do we do what we do? It's pretty understandable when you know that half of the world's population has to think about food and shelter over healthcare. And when you're making decisions and prioritizing between food and medicine or a doctor's visit, that's a kind of decision that many of us don't have to make. So we are working to minimize the staggering gaps in healthcare around the world, especially, and our focus is the developing world, where most of the inhabitants are making less than $5 a day. And those in severe poverty are making less than $1.90 a day. So they're not getting healthcare in the ways that we take for granted. They are arriving at facilities for emergent care, open lacerations, a very advanced form of a disease, and they've had no prior healthcare. So the whole system looks quite different over there. And that's what we are looking to support and strengthen. So here is our mission. We identify, solicit, collect, sort, and distribute medical supplies and services according to the imperative needs of the world. To date, we've worked in 135 countries, 5 to 50 countries, depending on the year. So what is Project Cure? We were founded in 1987, actually right here in Colorado, in the Evergreen garage of Dr. Jim Jackson and his wife, Anna Marie. Dr. Jim had traveled to Rio de Janeiro on a trade mission and had the occasion to see a clinic right outside of Rio that his driver was involved in. She volunteered there and she was an aspiring medical student. And what he saw astounded him. The patients were on the ground being treated without basic medical tools. So though he is not a medical doctor, he was an economist. That's his doctorate is in economics. That visit profoundly changed him and became his family's calling. So Project Cure, the acronym stands for Commission on Urgent Relief and Equipment. And we, as I mentioned, are formed to address the staggering gaps in healthcare in resource-limited countries around the world. And how we do this is by the benevolence and the surplus of the US healthcare system. So I'll get into that in just a sec, but we are now, fast forward from 1987, the world's largest distributor of donated medical relief to the developing world. And we do this from 7 different distribution centers around the country. So you are right here. And those of you who have volunteered with us, you have volunteered in our international headquarters. So it's kind of exciting for people like me that are very excited and passionate about international and under-resourced, and combining those to find something so international right here in Denver, because you usually kind of think of the international hubs being in these areas. We keep overhead low at our across our warehouses. We have across the 7 distribution centers, we only have 34 employees, and the majority of them are here in our headquarters. And then we have an incredible, unbelievable core of 25,000 volunteers across the country, and they are doing all kinds of things for us. Our volunteers are empowered to bring their expertise, their time, and their talent to drive forklifts, as was it Ron mentioned, drive for us, help us sort equipment and supplies, pack the containers, help out in our office doing administrative work, answering phones, scheduling pickups of medical donations, you name it. If you are interested in volunteering, we have an interesting role for you. So that's how we keep the overhead low. And incredibly, just right here in our international headquarters, we have 6,000 volunteers each year. So here's a little bit about our impact. In 2019, we delivered 145 40-foot hand-packed shipping containers with requested items, and each container has an average gift in kind value of about $340,000. So when you assess the value of the medical equipment, to give you an example of the exorbitant prices of these kind of things, if you have one ICU bed that is current in the US, the cost of that is about $35,000 for one bed. Wow. It's a big wow. And you would be amazed to know that your ICU bed that you might find yourself on comes with Bluetooth and a scale built in. So it has so many electronics and things. It just gives you an idea how you could get to. So a used ICU bed that has been maybe 6 years of its maybe of its 10 to 12 life is half that. So we would be getting a bed maybe that would have the gift in kind value of about $15,000. So it's just incredible when you see the costs of these things. What the work that we're able to do, our goal is to improve the standard of care in each of the clinics that we work in and improve patient outcomes. And my favorite analogy is the bed, not the ICU bed, because that's very high tech and lots of electronics, but I'm talking about a patient treatment bed. It can be very simple with no electronics, but literally that bed is lifting the patients off the ground, because most of the places that we're going into, our beds are actually helping the patient get a real night's rest, but even more importantly, helping to save the back of the healthcare worker who was treating that patient and bending over and was previously doing that on the ground. So I love that. That's the symbolism of lifting up with the beds that we provide. But typical containers will have a big mix of biomed equipment with an EKG machine and several ICU beds, and then maybe 20 to 30 patient treatment beds, and then all packed together with boxes of gloves and PPE and supplies that they will use throughout the year for their patients. So it's really amazing. And I hope some of those of you who have volunteered will share a little bit about your experiences as we go on. Since COVID hit, we kind of had to flip a big switch. We had 50 containers of medical relief that were packed and we had the funding all in place, and that funding in our system, once it is tied to a container, there's no unraveling that. So the containers were all stopped. And we didn't, originally we thought this was going to be about a 2-week delay, right? And here we are a year later, and our shipping containers have now gotten through, but we had 50 of them stuck, and that was a significant portion of Project Cure's funding. And there was no end in sight to COVID, and it ravaged the country, and everyone had to figure out their pivot and their reset and their reprioritization. And ours looked something like this. We realized we had 7 warehouses across the country with a lot of personal protective equipment, or PPE. And we realized also that there was an urgent need right here at home in the United States. And while our mission is to serve the imperative needs of the world, and our focus is the developing world, well, we had never been quite as close to the situations that the core beneficiaries of our work find themselves in on a daily basis. We had no toilet paper. We had no PPE. We had many stories coming into Project Cure about frontline professionals using hefty garbage bags when they had run out of protective gowns to treat patients. So the urgent need was right here at home. And there was a presidential order followed by a FEMA order that prohibited us from sending PPE abroad because rightfully so, the various powers that be understood that we had much of our production of personal protective equipment was offshore, and we needed to safeguard the inventories right here in this country. So we worked with the emergency management in each of the states that we have a presence in, and ended up donating back $3.4 million worth of gloves, gowns, shields, face masks, anything COVID related, back to the hospitals, first responders, and assisted living centers, many of whom had originally donated it to us. So it was reversing those supply chains. And thankfully, we already had the amazing relationships with the medical community in place. And through that, we were able to earn a Charity Navigator top COVID relief distinction for our work. So we're one of about, I think there are maybe, I'll have to look at the last count, but I think there were 18 organizations across the country that they considered top COVID relief. So we were thrilled to be among them. This is a picture right here of our box truck. This is a tiny, tiny truck compared to the big shipping containers that I'm talking about. But after we ran out of PPE in Denver, we hosted back March a year ago a PPE drive at Mile High. And we worked with the Broncos, Colorado Concern, some elected officials, to have this drive, and people literally drove up and dropped off their boxes of gloves, their shields. We had painters who were donating their PPE, asbestos mitigation people donating their PPE, and the hospitals at that point, which obviously are usually quite picky in the US about what they would use, they were saying, give us anything you have. We don't care if it's 3 years expired or 4, anything you have. We're in a dire situation here. Then the COVID the supply chains eventually caught up in the urban centers, and much of our work was to Colorado, outlying areas, to support their clinics. They don't have any purchasing power. They're not usually these independent clinics in the little mountain towns, and the outlying towns are not part of any greater hospital system. Their purchasing power is nil, and they had all incurred a ton of costs preparing for COVID to make their facilities safe. They also lost out on all of the elective procedures, so they were in dire need. So until very recently, we were serving those rural facilities. So that's a little bit about us. And now I was going to see if our friend Joe could share a little bit about why he is involved in Project Cure and what he's been able to do for us over his many years of involvement.
Well, I started many years ago. I first met Jim Jackson, the founder, through a mutual friend, and he convinced me to take a hard look at Project Cure. And at that time, he was semi-retiring, and his son Doug was taking over, and he's still our leader. Well, it was very interesting. Doug sat down. We had some various meetings together where I'd fit in best. And he gave my choices of a number of areas, and I chose to pick the sourcing of materials, calling on hospitals, clinics, doctors' offices, dentist office, to secure the Project Cure's prime purpose, which is all to keep that warehouse moving and stuffing. It was very interesting back then. It was very few people had even dreamed of the concept of it we were doing. It was difficult. It was ironic. I'd call on people and get a lot of pushback, but then ironically, a week later, we'd get a phone call and they'd say, the stuff is sitting out in the hallway, come get it immediately. And that was a strange thing for us we hadn't seen before. But anyway, the longer I became immersed in the project, the more sold I've become. There's two things that I really locked into. One is that they sent people out to personally visit before they send. They do a needs assessment before we send anything out, and it has to pass muster there first. And the second thing that impressed me is that 96% of the funds that are donated go directly to the end user. And those two things really locked me in tight with it. So I did this for about 3 years, working almost full time, calling on all these people that I had potential source of what we were after. And it worked out pretty well. But then after about 3 years, I had to retire because of a health problem. But I've stayed close with it ever since. And I'm still involved from the standpoint of donating, even though my dollars are a very tiny fraction of the total budget for Project Cure. But I have found that I love to leverage my money. And so I do restricted gifts, which I require them to find people to go 50-50 with matching my small funds, and this leverage my money even much further. And it gives me a great deal of satisfaction. And I've enjoyed every minute that I've been associated with Project Cure. So that's a quick summation of my background.
Great. So Joe, you would ask for donations of drugs and medical tools, things like that. Is that right?
Right, and anything and everything that the hospital could use in a foreign country. That the perfect example is that I was told that there were cases in many of the places overseas that would ship things to that the doctors didn't have any way of listening to the heart or lungs, so they put their ear against the chest of the patient because they didn't have a stethoscope. And fortunately, I ran across a situation in Chicago of a group of doctors were having a convention, and I was able to, they said they would cooperate, and I didn't realize how much they were going to cooperate. They sent us 100 stethoscopes, but once in a while you get lucky and hit pay dirt.
That's great. And Barrett, do the developing countries just not have the resources through the government or private to have good hospitals, medical care?
Yeah, it just comes down to a lack of resources. I mean, the challenges that they have just feeding their populations and housing them, and those come first. So healthcare takes a backseat to all of those, and healthcare is a bit of a misnomer there. It's really mostly emergent care. So health, we're trying to build that and build the infrastructures. We're not creating net new infrastructures, which I think is important. We're supporting the infrastructures that they have in place and treating their professionals with dignity and working alongside of them. And as Joe mentioned, we do a needs assessment so that we understand exactly what they need. There's nothing that we are giving them that they haven't approved. And even it's donated to us, but there is a cost, a significant cost associated with the work that we do. Just to give you an idea, it costs about $25,000 to send a full container that with the gift in kind value of $340,000 of medical equipment. That's what it costs us to pick up the donations around the country, put them into our inventory, inspect them, make sure all the machines have all the parts and all the pieces, make sure it's on their list, do the assessment, do all of the work to ensure that we know that this relief is going to the facility that we are working with and not being sold on a secondary market, et cetera. So there's a lot of different boxes we have to check off, including, working with each country, which presents its own unique challenges. But yes, it's amazing work. And we're super happy that Joe's along for the ride with us and has been such a critical part of our mission for many years.
Barrett?
Yes.
These recipients overseas, is it usually a one-time situation, or do you have ongoing relationships with some of them?
I would say both. I would say there are many facilities we've done a one and done. We gave them all the beds and all the equipment that they need, and they just needed that little lift, and they can take it from there. And then we work on return projects all the time. We had worked, our needs assessments last for 5 years. So I just outfitted two facilities in Haiti with our emergency relief beds, 2 containers full, so 200 beds sent to them, and they had had a container of relief from us 4 years prior. So that's very common too, once they know our work, but then they just have to finding that $25,000 is no easy task for the people in the countries we're working with. So many of them have partners here in the US, or churches or organizations or corporations. We work with some very amazing corporations that want to support international relief in the countries where they have a presence. So I wanted to share with you real quick all the ways that you can get involved, and please keep your questions coming, but I just wanted you to have a sense of some of the things that you can jump in on with us. I would, right now, volunteering this is especially timely. This is National Volunteer Month. And so shout out to all of you who are our volunteers, and you guys are the heart of our organization. Literally nothing that we do could be done without our amazing volunteers. So we are looking for people to help us sort, pack, drive, the office support. We have forklifts. I've got to move a pallet jack. I didn't know how to use that before. You get trained in all kinds of amazing things that you would never expect to be doing. But I think what's so neat about our volunteers is they sometimes come one person at a time, and sometimes come as a group. But if they enjoy the work and what we are able to empower them to do, they often come back. And we kept our warehouse going throughout COVID with our regular volunteers. We didn't bring others into the warehouse to keep the safety and the hygiene and the wellness of our volunteers at top of mind, so they could be safe, and they understood that they were helping us and going home and coming back. And we really minimized any activity other than them in the warehouse, and we were able to continue to deliver. In fact, we're on track to have a record 200 container a year, which is crazy from around the country. But we have groups like Notre Dame does a night every month. Comcast does one. There's an insurance group who does. The Denver Association of Operating Room Nurses comes. They have a standing monthly appointment. There's all kinds of groups. Then we have our regular volunteers who are there 3-4 days a week. And then we have lots of corporations that come and they do one volunteer day a year. And so we have any mix of that. But if you find something that you're excited about, we have opportunities to build on that. And we really love when people become regular volunteers. We're always looking for volunteers in our biomed. That is the area of highest need, but that's ongoing. That's for those engineering types among us. And then we have cure clinics. If any of you are interested in traveling, we're not traveling right now, but we hope to be in the fall. We do those in any given year. We do 7 to 12 different clinics around the world. We haven't done any this past year, obviously. And you can either help us find medical equipment and supplies like Joe did by procuring it, helping us procure it. Or if you know people who have it and want to donate it, we have a phone number. It is staffed by volunteers. It takes a couple days for them to get back to people. So don't be surprised if that occurs. But that is how we get a lot of our supplies, and the crutches and the wheelchairs and the beds and things. What questions do you have for me?
I had a question related, Barrett. It was maybe two questions. How do you track those shipping containers? You know, you're packing, they pay for it, right? So they wherever it's going, they pay for the shipping costs. And so
Yes.
How do you track that? And then the second one, how do you decide where to, there's the need or all across the country? How do you decide the priorities? You know.
Yeah, and your second question I'll start with. That was my first question when I got to Project Cure. I kind of assumed that Project Cure determined where the needs were greatest, and they made those decisions. And actually, it's driven by our partners and their needs, and they come to us and reach out. Right now, I am working with a foundation that serves needs in Kenya. So they were looking to support Kenya. Right now, I have an individual who works at Anschutz who is Senegalese, and he went home for a visit to his family, and while he was there required medical attention and went into the hospital. And talk about the vast difference between his hospital in Senegal and working for Anschutz. He got right on and started asking all of his friends and fundraising for a container. So it happens by a corporation, by a foundation, by an individual, by a group of individuals, and they determine, and then we provide that needs assessment to, sometimes they're not even aware of all the things we can provide them, so that we manage expectations about what that looks like. And then we set up the shipping, and they pay for that through us. And what we don't handle is customs. That's the only thing we do not handle.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. Yeah, it's so interesting. They come to you saying, we need that. Okay, I that helps me kind of. I had no idea really about Project Cure. How that's interesting. And then how do you track that? I guess from my background in business and project management, I'm intrigued by how do you track it? So how do you have software systems that are tracking?
Oh my goodness, we have an FlowTrack is our inventory system, and we probably have 2,000 items in that. But on a daily basis, we're seeing more like 600 to 900 different items that are sorted and tracked through that system. And then that helps us that with our shipping too. And we've worked with 135 countries. So it's just, there's a lot of pieces to it. And at any given time, we don't focus on disaster relief, but this past year we did to Armenia, to Lebanon, and to Honduras, which got hit by the 2 consecutive tornadoes. Hurricanes.
Thank you. Wow.
It is 11:04, and
Yep.
we're going to kind of wrap up with this section. If you want to ask Barrett more questions or contact her, there is her email address and phone number on the screen. And we're also going to ask Tom Schultz to tell us for a couple minutes about his experience too, before we let Barrett go. So thank you, Barrett, so much for your time today. And Tom, tell us what you do there with the forklift.
Well, briefly, the story is that a friend of mine, when I retired, decided that I needed to do something. And she took me to Project Cure and explained pretty much what it was. And I like to say that she left me there because I've pretty much been there ever since. So, and basically loading trucks, sorting the merchandise as it comes in, particularly the heavy equipment, and then loading, loading and storing, putting the pallets up in the racks, and basically keeping track of the inventory in that manner. So
How often do you do it, Tom? Once a week or how
I used to
frequently?
be, I used to be a little more time there. I used to work 3 days a week. Now it's down to 2.
Oh,
But,
that's
but I'm still there and still doing the job.
can you
Which
check
always
your,
was-
can you choose your hours and days you want to work?
That was the nice part about it. Yes, as a matter of fact, it's pretty much open. Depending what you've been trained to do, you could pretty much choose your own hours. Now, as a group, that's an entirely separate thing. Groups need the supervision of the supervisor, but individuals are there at their convenience in many cases. So it's a great thing to do if you happen to be retired and are looking for something to do.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Okay, Barrett, thank you again. And
Thank you so much. Wanted to thank Tom and Joe and anyone else who's volunteered and say happy National Volunteer Month. And we really appreciate you. Thanks so much.
thank you. I didn't realize it was National Volunteer Month, so that's good timing here. Okay, May 8th is the St. Andrew Big Serve, and I'm going to share on my screen one of the pages from the Big Serve website on the St. Andrews website. So there it talks about gardening. You can sign up for gardening, clean up playground, trim bushes, feed people at the Denver Rescue Mission. I hope you all have taken a look at this and maybe signed up for something. Vicki, what did you sign us up for?
You can
An
sign up,
evening meal at Denver Rescue Mission.
you can sign up for Project Cure or for the Big Sur also.
Yes, Jim, you're right. It's on here somewhere. Project Cure. So we may do that too. You can sign up for more than one thing, probably. Something in the morning, something in the afternoon if you want to. Habitat for Humanity. What have some of you all chosen so far? Anybody want to share?
We
Yeah.
signed up for Project Cure, Jane and I.
Good. Great. Anybody else? Nobody else yet want to share? Vicki says we're going to take our youngest granddaughter and take her down to the Denver Rescue Mission and serve down there. Yep. That'll be good. And then, of course, other things that St. Andrew does. I don't have it to pull up on the screen, but East Elementary and what other things does anybody else do that's connected with St. Andrew for volunteer service?
Steve, I thought it might be good to mention that with the projects for Big Serve, it is they have some of the projects that are no contact projects and others that
Okay.
are contact. So people that are still feeling apprehensive about COVID can come and do, like, there were projects to pack backpacks for Second Chance, or donating food for the food bank, different things of that type. And so I think that, you know, as you look through the list, that would be good to keep in mind. Definitely do projects that would not involve having contact with other people. And then I know they have a whole lot of parks that they're recommending for family projects that you can go clean up a park with your kids. So I think, you know, as you look through the list, it'd be good to keep all of those different options in mind.
Good idea, Jan. Okay. Very good. And are there some at the church? Do you know?
Yes, it at least that's the impression that I got as I looked through the list. It looked like doing the backpacks. It looked like that was at the church. And
Jackie there.
I think well, I'm not sure if others are at the church, but it looked like that one was at the church.
Okay. And there's Project Cure there also. Looks like, as I'm scrolling through, Habitat for Humanity, things at the church. Well, it's nice that we are doing it again this year somehow and not just skipping another year
Right.
of having Big Sur. Okay. What else do people do? Let's have a little discussion about other types of service that we do during the year. What do other people do? I'll share that Vicky, my wife, is signed up for hospice volunteering care, and she's going to get training in that and become a hospice volunteer. I'm proud of her for that. Something I couldn't do very easily, but she's got the strength to do that. What else do you all do? Lola, what do you do?
I volunteer at the Littleton Adventist Hospital, and we've been kind of on hiatus, but now the people are becoming vaccinated and we're progressing back. They're bringing volunteers back.
Great.
Lots of opportunities there always.
What do you do there exactly?
Up until when they stopped having volunteers there, I was involved with helping with people to register as they're checking in for everything except emergency. That's a different department. So it's kind of, helping to get people to the right place and just make sure that the process runs smoothly. Meet a lot of great people.
I'll bet.
That you work with, and the ones, who are just so grateful to have a friendly, non-medical person who is
Yes.
kind of an advocate for them. They're more inclined sometimes to ask a volunteer for assistance because
Yes.
they're intimidated by the codes.
Good idea. How often do you do that, Lola?
It's been one day a month. I mean, a week, one day a week, Mondays.
It seems like a good frequency for retired people, I've heard.
It
They
really
like to
is.
plan one day a week.
Yeah, it doesn't mess with my bridge games and my water aerobics.
Yeah. Very good. Jim Watson, do you have your hand up on screen?
No,
Well,
Okay,
this is Jane.
that's okay. Connie Dix, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, Jane
I'm a
does. Okay. Jane first,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay.
Well, I was going to say, we have Family Promise and we work with them once a quarter. So we have been doing that. So it's not as much as once a week, but we do what we can to help either with food when we were doing that, or bringing food to the church that can go to where these people are located now, or supplying quarters so they can wash their clothes, which I thought was a pretty important thing to do,
Yeah,
laundry.
because you
yeah,
can have laundry facilities in the places where they're staying that's free.
very good. Okay, Connie, yes.
I'm a Rotarian, and so I do several things, and we do Project Cure actually, and we do that once a month. And Metro Care, we work with them once a month, and I'm working with Project Angel Heart, and I decorate bags that they give food to people that are very ill, and they get to give them in these nice decorated bags. And I work with my grandkids doing that sometimes, which is lots of fun. So, and we're going to be starting helping with vaccine in a couple of weeks. So I'm signed up to do that. So
Con, what Rotary Club are you with?
Highlands Ranch.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so it's a very active club, and it's been so joyful to help other people. So I really enjoy doing all these things.
That's
So many
wonderful.
people need so much.
And there's so many opportunities, different things to do.
Yeah, there
Use
is.
your own skills and your own interest.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Right. Lois, got your hand up. You're muted still. Unmute yourself on the lower left corner.
I've worked for probably 9 years, once a week with Close to Kids Denver. They give students who are in need of clothing, 5 new pair of underwear, 5 new pair of socks, 5 tops, 4 bottoms, coat, shoes, and they, not last year, but the year before, they gave away 10,000 wardrobes.
Wow. That's
And
terrific.
you can sort clothing, use clothing. It's grown so much now that there are a lot of corporations that are giving their oversupply items to Close to Kids. And there are a lot of new items that they can get also. And you can sort used items. You can stock. The store is just like a regular store, and people can come in with an appointment and their paperwork and actually, choose the things that they want. And then we also can help them shop, or if they're new to the setup, that we take them around and show them what they can get and where the items are, and then we check them out. So it's a great opportunity for us to work with people that really need it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lois. Okay, Lois Kemmerling.
I teach adult immigrants to speak English.
Oh,
It's a volunteer thing at the library, the Douglas County Libraries. And I've done it for years. I love to do it. It's great.
oh.
Very good experience.
Are they
What?
mostly Spanish speakers?
No, they used to be. A few years ago, it used to be more of that. Right now, I have mainly Korean, South Koreans.
Oh,
It
very good.
changes. I mean, I've done it for quite a few years, and it kind of goes by a shift or something. And it used to be a lot of a lot of Spanish, but now it's more other countries. They're kind of into our country, the Spanish are, they're kind of moving in.
Very
So
good.
I enjoy it very much.
Do you need special training for that?
Well, they
If
send
we-
this, the library sends you to it's a 6-week thing, but it's really 3 full days of training. And I'm a teacher anyway, so it, isn't so much training, but they will help you with whatever, and they provide all kinds of, you teach it once a week, so they're in content, and then once a month, we have a Zoom meeting with our leader. There's a person totally in charge of teaching English to adults. And we meet on Zoom with her, all of us, so that we can talk about how we're doing, how we're getting along, what are the problems, all that. It's very interesting.
It just occurred to me that if any of the organizations that any of you are involved in ever have a call for a drive for whatever it is that those organizations need, that might be an interesting project for our class to take on. If there's like the one that's for children, if there's ever a need that, we could collect socks or underwear and just make it a class project, I certainly would encourage you to let us know that. Because I think in the past, we've enjoyed being able to do that as a class, produce funds or items or whatever. So just keep that in mind, that if any of those organizations do need anything and are making a call, even the Diaper Depot, it's a great idea once in a while. I just participated with one of the women's groups and took a couple of big boxes of diapers down, and, just wherever the need is. But I think our class would be a good group to be able to do that kind of thing. So just keep that in mind.
You're probably speaking about the Adoptee Circle.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
You did
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did help with
Diapers,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
and I'm not
yeah.
able to attend that group on a regular basis, but
No,
I'm on their mailing list. And so it's just kind of nice to know where there's a need. So
Sure.
if it
Mhm.
comes up, in any of the groups that you are involved in, let us know as a class and let's do it, I think it's a
Mhm.
great idea.
That's good. I think we should do an adult diaper drive.
Yeah, not a bad idea, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Why
I think
not?
that's a great idea, Vicky.
Our needy
Um,
seniors too.
Oh.
Thank you, Lois. That's a great idea.
Vicki, are you still collecting $1 a day?
I haven't been, not since I've been going through my
Okay.
little episode. How about you?
Well, was February the last month?
I
you
think
were-
it was. Yeah,
Okay.
I believe it was.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, but that was a great idea. But I think we're all able. So, just be willing to bring up a need for us, because I think it's kind of fun for us to do it as a class.
Mhm. Good. Are there also Zoom opportunities for serving that anybody knows about, like tutoring teenagers or youngsters by Zoom?
Well, I do all of mine on Zoom right now
Oh, you
because
do?
students are afraid to be in the public. But once
Yeah.
we are done with this COVID, we'll go back to the library meetings and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I know of other people who are tutoring children on Zoom too. One of my daughters is doing that. She's a retired teacher. So there are all kinds of possibilities. If you just look around, you can find them, things to
Yes.
do. Mhm.
Steve, I think Susan wanted to say something.
You bet. Go ahead, Susan.
Yeah, someone mentioned that they were doing the bags for the patients in the hospital with their grandchildren, and I wanted to mention that in Canada, they instill a sense of volunteerism at a very early age, because they make it as a priority and a prerequisite for high school graduation that kids have to complete 40 hours of community service before they can graduate.
What a great idea. We should do that here.
Yeah, that was me that did that. And Vicky, I'm so glad. I'm so glad, Vicky, that you brought this up, because I'll be asking the class to do some things. So we actually at Rotary just sent 719 bras down to South America, where girls are being raped and just made to be in a place that they shouldn't be, that are only like 12 years old. And we give them 100 bras and start them in business, and they can get on their own that way.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so rewarding.
So many needs.
Yeah.
Any other types of volunteerism people are doing?
I do something a little more, I guess, unique. I'm a volunteer at the Cherokee Ranch and Castle, and I am on the Bluebird. I monitor bluebirds. We have 238 houses on the property, and we have volunteers that will, on a weekly basis from mid-March through mid-August, will once a week walk the trails and report what they're monitoring in terms of type of bird, number of eggs, and survival, that sort of thing. Some people consider me a birder, but I can only name 5 birds, hawk, buzzard, sparrow. But I actually have gotten a lot better about it. But I maintain the houses once the bears rip them apart, which last year we had 29 houses that the bears felt there were cookies or something in there, and they would rip these things apart. But it's very fulfilling to me because I'm outdoors on this beautiful piece of property, oftentimes by myself, and it's a real spiritual experience for me to be out there. So I probably get 120 hours a year that I spend out there. So.
Very good. Yep. Doug's the Birdman of Castle Pines. We admired Doug's all kind of volunteerism. Well, we're 11, Vicki.
Yeah. One other thing. It's been several years ago now that I did this, but when Paige Thompson was still here, she and I formed kind of an alliance with Cindy Click in being a senior mentor to the youth group. And it was in many different ways. I mean, we offered cooking classes. We offered, we didn't offer a sewing class or anything like that. But I think that there's a lot to be said about being a senior and being able to mentor a youth in certain things where they just need instruction. And I think it does both sets of both groups, a lot of good. You know, I think it helps us feel like we're still being useful, and that something that we've learned and lived a life doing, we can teach to someone that, you know, a young person that may not know how to do that. So it might be a good idea for us to talk to Cindy about something that we might be able to do and to incorporate the youth into it with us, because that's kind of a neat combination. I think they really enjoyed learning how to bake pies. The girls did. There were a couple of guys in the cooking class that enjoyed it. So there's a lot of opportunity right inside of our church that we could be involved with too. So.
Yep. And Ron Puning teaches Sunday school with the kids. You still do that, Ron?
Dropped out during the COVID.
During COVID, but there will be need when we get back together for elementary age Sunday school teachers.
Vaccination, yeah.
Lots of things. Well, we're about out of time once again, but Jan, go ahead. I see you talking.
Okay. Bob and I are involved with an immigration program that we are on a team that sponsors an immigrant who was in ICE, and because the team came together, we were able to sponsor him to get out of the detention center, and is living with a family now. And then the team helps provide support to him and helps with transportation and getting him to doctor's visits, et cetera, that type of thing. And so we have become more and more involved with the immigration population and are enjoying that.
Great. Thank you, Jan. That's an important, timely topic. If we're going to welcome immigrants into America, we have to help them get acclimated to life. Yeah. We are going to have a new class about refugees and immigration this fall, a St. Andrew class, and maybe try and encourage more of a ministry by St. Andrew in that. So we'll talk with you more about that, Jan. That's a great opportunity.
Good.
Any final thoughts as we wrap up, everybody? Well, good class. Important topic. Thanks for sharing the way that you share and volunteer. And we will talk to you again next week. Lord, thank you for all these good friends that are doing good in the world. Bless them all. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Talk to you
Great
next
class.
week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good
Bye-bye.
class.
Thank you. Good class. Yeah.
Thanks. Bye-bye.